Today is September 9th. It's the 253rd day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. Today is Wienerschnitzel Day here in the United States. Why, I don't know, but I enjoy Wienerschnitzel. At least, I enjoy the German dish that's flattened veal, dipped in flour and coated in Parmesan, eggs, and nutmeg and milk and breadcrumbs, and browned in a large skillet over a medium heat. Yum. I don't know so much about the hot dog chain Wienerschnitzel, never been. And if you're not into either, today is also National Steak au Poivre Day here in the US. So there's that. A more important observance today is Martyrs' Day in Afghanistan, honoring those who have died fighting for the country. The day is also known as Massoud Day to honor specifically Afghan military leader Ahmad Shah Massoud, who is assassinated on this day in 2001. Massoud, known as the Lion of Panjshir, is a commander of the resistance against the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan from 1979 to 1989. He's an important military leader who, after the Soviets leave, focuses on fighting the Taliban. In 2001, he gives a speech to the European Parliament, warning of a massive terror attack that his sources in Afghanistan tell him is imminent. On this day in 2001, Massoud meets with a camera crew for an interview. The crew is allegedly from Morocco by way of Belgium, but when Massoud sits down for the interview and the crew detonate the explosives hidden in the camera, it's clear they're not who they say they are. Ahmad Shah Massoud dies of his injuries while en route to the hospital. It's believed he's assassinated by Al-Qaeda on this day in 2001, 2 days before the September 11th attacks, either as a favor for the Taliban getting rid of their nemesis in order to ensure their support in the weeks and months after the attacks in the U.S., or it has been said Massoud is assassinated in the days ahead of the 9/11 attacks to hinder the U.S. military response in Afghanistan, assuming correctly that U.S. and NATO forces will align with Massoud's forces in retaliation for the attacks, which they do even after his death. On this day in 2001. On this day in 1971, the Attica prison riot breaks out at the New York State Maximum Security Correctional Facility located in Attica, New York. Attica is located on the west side of New York State, what we call Western New York. Attica is where New York sends the worst of its worst. Mark David Chapman is sent there after he murders John Lennon in 1980. Eddie Comiskey, the Irish gang hitman known as the Butcher of Hell's Kitchen, is locked up there for a string of hits. He's actually rubbed out later by Joseph Mad Dog Sullivan, who is the only person to successfully escape from Attica. El Sayed Nosair, the 1993 World Trade Center bomber, is sent to Attica after he's caught and convicted, as is David Berkowitz, the son of Sam killer, who kills 6 people throughout the summer of 1976 on the orders of his neighbor's dog. So it's a nice group of guys there in the 80s and 90s. And the population of Attica Correctional Facility on this day in 1971 is made up of a similar crop. On this morning in 1971, a small group of inmates is upset with the treatment of another prisoner who is being isolated after assaulting a prison officer. Their protest leads to a confrontation with a guard who tries to get everyone to cool off and calm down. The guard is assaulted, and the riot is on. By the time the inmates take over the block in the central control room, they have taken 42 guards and prison staff hostage. There are roughly 1,000 inmates who take part in the riot, nearly half of the inmate population at the time. Negotiations with the prisoners drag on for 4 days. The prisoners have a long list of demands, most of which consists of prisoner rights, such as better living conditions, better medical treatment and food, better sanitation, and an end to the physical abuse by prison officers. One of the major demands is an end to the overcrowding that makes life inside Attica unbearable. But New York State Correctional Services Commissioner Russell Oswald is unwilling to give in to the prisoners' demands. And New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller refuses to come to Attica and speak with the inmates. Oswald tells Rockefeller he's going to order the state police to retake the prison, which Rockefeller's okay with. 4 days after the Attica prison riots break out on this day in 1971, the state police set off tear gas and open fire into the chemical fog. When it's all over, 10 prison officers and staff and 33 inmates are dead, 43 in all. And now, more than 30 years later, Attica is still overcrowded, with a number of inmates double-bunked in cells that are built for single occupancy. The 4-day riot leaves a lasting impression on the country. It's referenced in all kinds of media, films, books, TV shows. It's referenced in the film Dog Day Afternoon when Al Pacino's character, the bank robber Sonny, starts chanting, "Attica, Attica," at the police amassed outside the bank, riling up the crowd of onlookers. And the riot certainly leaves a lasting impression on Western New York. It happened before my time, but I remember people talking about it years afterwards. And the Attica prison riot that breaks out on this day in 1971 leaves a lasting impression on one young man in particular, a budding dramatist studying at Buffalo State College, who lands a job as a TV writer on St. Elsewhere, and later on Homicide, Life on the Street. While on Homicide, Tom Fontana pitches a show to HBO, a show that picks up where most police procedurals leave off when the convicted criminal is sent to prison. Fontana's show, called Oz, is set in the fictional Oswald State Correctional Facility. As Fontana tells it, quote, "Oswald was the name of the warden at Attica during the riots, a complete a-hole. In a way, it's a half-hearted homage to the Attica riots, which was part of the reason I wanted to do the series. When Attica happened, I didn't understand it. I've been trying to understand it ever since."
He wants to kill me so bad he can taste it.
I'm always going to kill you.
Attica! Attica!
What are you
Attica! 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 Attica!
There are 113 days left in the year. On This Day is produced and written by me, Dave Schultz. Thank you very much for listening. I do the music as well. I haven't mentioned that in a while, so if you're new, I do the music as well. Just so you know. There you go. Anyway, thanks for listening. I do appreciate it. Thanks for sharing the show. I really appreciate that. And if you're still listening,
Attica! Attica!
talk to you tomorrow.